Okay, this is solution to homework problem number 13-9. This is our radiation chapter, and this problem is going to ask us to find two specific view factors in a particular geometry. That geometry looks like such. There is two planar sections that have a common edge and are perpendicular to one another. Okay. On the bottom here we have some surface A3. In the middle, some surface A1. And above, we're told this is surface A2. We know that these are at right angles. Okay. We're also given a couple of dimensions. The width of this is 4 meters. And we're given the other dimension as being 1.2 meters for each one of these different areas. Okay, so right off the bat we see that A1 is equal to A2, which is equal to A3. The problem just asks us to try and find what the value of the view factor is from 1 to 3, and also what the view factor is from 2 to 3. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use our laws of reciprocity and summation or superposition to come up with all the different view factors. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we notice that we have this particular arrangement, and for these planar surfaces with a common edge at 90 degrees from one another, we have this geometry in figure 13-6 that looks like such. Okay, so this is figure 13-6. We see we have a perpendicular, we have two planar surfaces perpendicular to one another. Thing to be careful of in this graph, their notation is that A1 is on the bottom, and therefore L1 goes along with that bottom surface, and L2 is the vertical surface that goes along with area A2. So our geometry is named somewhat differently, but we'll account for that. And what we do is we find out the ratio of L2 over W, then we find out the ratio of L1 over W, and we come along and we look over on the y-axis and we'll come up with what our F1 to 2 is. Okay, so now let's try and adapt this to our problem. Okay, so from figure 13.6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in quotes this L2, and that, when it's in quotes, it's referring to the value of L2 or the labeling of L2 that's on the figure. Okay, so we need L2 over W, and this is, I should mention, what we're going to do is we're going to try and find the view factor from 3 to 1. Okay, so the bottom surface looking from this surface looking to surface A1. So our L2 in this case is going to be this dimension here, which is 1.2, and our W is 4. So we'll find that this ratio is just equal to 0.3. And then our L1 in quotes over W, that's really going to equal, in our figure, what L3 is, right? Which is 1.2 divided by W, which is still 4. So this is also equal to 0.3. Okay. So from the chart, we'll go ahead. We find that we go from point 3, and we find it point 3 here is this line, and then we'll just look across. And this will give us that f from 3 to 1 is going to equal 0.26. Okay. Now we can use our reciprocity. And reciprocity tells us that A1 times F13 is going to equal A3 times F31. In the beginning, we said that A1 is equal to A3, so they'll cancel each other. And reciprocity tells us that F31 is equal to F13. So from that, we say that these are both equal to 0.26. Okay. So now, the way we're still going to try and be after F 2 to 3. Okay. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's first start by finding the view factor from our surface A3 to the sum of A1 plus A2. So we'll go from A3 and its view factor with these two surfaces, A1 plus A2. So again, we're going to use the figure. And again, this is figure 13-6. We'll now have that L2 in quotes over W is now going to equal the sum of both of those vertical sides. So 1.2 plus 1.2 divided by W. Right? Because now our L2 is this dimension, which is 2.4. And W is 4. So this is 1.2 plus 1.2 divided by 4. And this is just going to equal 0.6. And now our quotes L1 over W is the same 1.2 over 4, which is 0.3. We look this up on the chart, and we'll find that F going from surface 3 and looking at the sum of 1 plus 2, that's going to equal 0.32. Okay. And lastly, I could use my superposition rule. Superposition says that the view factor from 3 to 1 plus 2 is just going to equal the sum of the view factor from 3 to 1 plus the view factor from 3 to 2. So F from 3 to 1 plus 2 is just going to equal the view factor from 3 to 1 plus the view factor from 3 to 2. So we solved for this, and this we've got to be 0.32. So that's equal to F31, which we found in part A. So that was equal to 0.26 plus F32. One equation, one unknown. we can solve this for F32. We find that it is equal to 0.06. So those are your two answers, F3 to 2, 0.06, and F1 to 3, 0.26.